So hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthlings 6455463728. And sorry, me too. Sometimes rejection is the beginning and not the end. Now, before you become a lynch mob and want to string me up because of that, just please hear me out. After I explain that, of course, I'm Earthling, yada yada yada. I have no daughters. I have no wife. I have sisters. I have a mom. I am an ex-Army reservist. I have a computer science degree, bachelor's. Have I run a marathon? I've done a walkathon, I think. That's it for me. Anyway, now this contravenes everything that no means no says. But sometimes getting rejected is the beginning of a relationship rather than the end. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case 50% of the time. Maybe it's a very small, tiny minority of the time. And I totally 100% I'm in support of Me Too. All of the serious allegations, with respect to women feeling humiliated and men feeling humiliated, Bill Cosby, all the other people who, Harvey Weinstein, with respect to, what's that guy's name? The guy who asked people if he could masturbate in front of them, Louis C.K. I kind of had something against Louis C.K., so I am slightly biased. But, I think, what's his name? I think that Chappelle had some points that, people do exaggerate in terms of the effect that things had on them. Like, Chappelle was saying that one of the ladies who were referring to Louis C.K. said that the experience ruined comedy for them, which of course is an exaggeration because there's a lot of horrible things that happen in comedy. One of them might be bombing. It's probably worse than, being in front of Louis C.K. because when you're bombing, everybody can see that you are failing and a failure. And anyway, my point is that I was going to give some stories whereby I was going to give an example of how girls would initially have not seemed receptive to my, my overtures towards them. And then afterwards, they just totally seemed to be on it. I'll give one example. I remember I used to work at an office when I worked for the government. And I would come back after I left and meet some of the people who started working after me. So there was one girl that I thought was attractive, but the slight things that you do, you just look at someone and you hope that they look at you too and realize, okay, yeah, I like you, or if they don't, they realize that this person likes them, but she just never caught on. I never said anything overtly to her. But anyway, I guess one time I was on the phone with her. Like, I called my office, my former office, and I was talking to her, and I think as I was getting off the phone, or maybe she was going to pass me on to someone else, I was like, listen, I'm going to see a movie today. Should I invite you or what? Should I go? What do you think about that? And she was like, well, yeah, go see a movie. She plainly understood, what my suggestion was. Like, hey, do you want to come and see a movie with me? And she did not seem interested per se. She wasn't offended. She was not in any way like revolted or anything like that. She might even have been slightly amused, but she was not like in any way like overtly offended. Now the thing is that the next time I called, and again, I guess I wanted to speak to a former colleague of mine, she was on the line, like biding time, like dragging, was seemingly interested in a longer conversation than I was. I'm like, is this guy there? And she's like, yeah, he's there. So I'm like, okay. And normally she would just hang up the phone, go, not hang up the phone, put the phone down and go call that person straight off. But then she's like on the phone, like, so, is everything good? And I'm like, yep, everything's fine, because I had been rejected. I still liked her. But, and that's one of the things that I have to come to terms with myself, is that sometimes people will start thinking after you've spoken to them, after they have discouraged you, and you should probably check with them again, or at least see, don't build up a wall around your heart where you don't want anything to do with them because they told you no once. So anyway, after it was clear that I wasn't going to offer to invite her anywhere else again, that never happened again, and I never made any overtures again after that either. So that was the end of that. But the idea was that even though she had been clear that, yeah, I'm not going to go to a movie with you on this occasion, and I'm not suggesting that I'm going at any other time, when she thought about it, I guess, given enough time, she was a little bit more in line, maybe thinking it was a good idea or whatever. But I wasn't. I was done. And, I've seen other people do that when I was not too excited about their invitation or something. The next time they weren't too interested. Of course, there was another time as well where I was giving this girl a ride, and she and her friend and this other guy, they were in the back seat, and I was just, hey, so how are things? How's the day going? She gave me some short answer. She wasn't my friend. This is the first time I'd ever seen her, and she's in my car, and she didn't snap at me, but she was a little bit curt, I guess is the right word. And from the moment that she was curt, I was done. That was it. Unfortunately, like I said, rejection was the beginning, and her friend, the guy who had arranged the ride for the three of them, he was like, that's a little curt. You're in the guy's car and you're answering him in that way, and he doesn't, he's doing us a favor. So for months or maybe years afterwards, she and her friend, they would when they saw me, they would be like, hi, Earthling, and I'd be like, hi, and that's it. And I've mentioned that before, but yeah, it was probably an invitation. There's a complete turnaround in her attitude, but I didn't care. She was a pretty girl, definitely, but I wasn't having it. There was even another girl that I worked with who I asked her out, plain as day, several times. She was like, no, I don't want to go, no. Then one day, she's like, hey, can you come and help me to study? I'm like, where? She's like, yeah, at my apartment. Can you help me study? And I was like, nope, I'm busy. I got stuff to do. And, afterwards, since we worked together, afterwards, I mentioned that, yeah, I was just lying. I didn't have anything to do. I just wanted to get back at her for saying no to me all those times. And she's like, I knew it. I told my mom about this, and I threw the book across the my apartment when I was telling my mom about that. And yeah, that's what happened. And she even offered to give me a ride to my house one day, and I'm like, hey, you want to come in? She's like, no. So, it was a kind of a thing where it was like not overtly. And I guess at some point we were on the road to maybe being more than friends. But I got back with my ex-girlfriend, and that was the end of that. So yeah, that's how that went. And there was one other time, actually, and there's a lot of times where this happens. I remember I was working at this computer lab, and so this girl came in who had just come to the university some time ago, and did I already talk to her sometime? I don't remember. I don't recall. I tried to walk her to her car one day. But anyway, this was, I guess, a while after that. And so she's sitting in front of one computer. So I don't go next to her. I go to the computer that is facing her. But no, it's not facing her. It's the computer across the table from her. So the backs of our monitors are facing each other, and I make sure to sit down in that seat that is opposite to her. And at some point, I get up and I'm like, hey, do you want to go and see a movie or something? And she's like, I have a boyfriend. And I'm like, yeah, so what? She's like, no, I'm not going to go. So I'm like, okay, fine. But worse than that, when her boyfriend comes to the computer lab to meet her, she whispers to her boyfriend, I suppose, what had happened. And her boyfriend is looking at me, not really sure what to say or to do about the situation where I asked his girlfriend to go out, and I didn't seem to care that he existed as a boyfriend. And he never really told me anything, but whatever. So the next day, I was seated myself at the around that same place, and there was computer labs empty, but she comes to sit again opposite to where I am sitting, which I take in my mind, maybe I'm just loony, when there are all of these empty computers that you can go sit down at. She comes to sit across from me, the same way that I had done with her. And given that she had ratted me out to her boyfriend, after a short period of time, I turned off that computer, turned on the computer next to it, and went over there because I didn't want to sit, and I just wanted to give that message that nope, you're not doing what I did, or waiting for me to have another invitation like that, because I'm not going to do that. And yeah, I guess it's something that you hear about, which is that you don't always have to pursue somebody. You just, sometimes you throw out a suggestion that, hey, and then you see what happens. Maybe you just leave them alone, It's like fishing, right? So you throw out your line and you just drag it back in. And you give the person the time, opportunity to think about, or to see especially, that you're not desperate per se. And yeah, and that can be a problem for me too if the person is not interested, because of course most inquiries, most overtures are unsolicited, because if they were solicited, that means the other person like solicited you. They're like, hey, do you want to go out? And that means that their overture was unsolicited by you. So almost all, if not all, overtures are unsolicited. And if you don't like them, you can make a big deal about it when you can just say no. Of course, if someone is pursuing and pursuing and pursuing, even though you make it plain that you're not interested, then yeah, I can't imagine what that must be like for women, and I try not to do that. Anyway, that's it for me. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, any of those things that you'd like if someone did it to you. Have a good one. Peace.